Oh, okay, okay. Is that okay now? Can you see it now? Okay, okay. All right. Is that better now? Oh, okay, okay. So it's fixed now. Okay, great. That's interesting. Okay, so once again, guys, we're going to do data visualization today. I know you were hearing my voice, but you weren't seeing my screen. And we are just creating a new script for it. All right, so creating the script requires you to, just click on this icon here, then our script. And this created the new script here, right? And let's actually give it a name. Of course, I copied and pasted the code here for loading the packages, but let's go ahead and name our file. Okay, so Control S, or you can just click on the floppy disk here. Okay, if you click on the floppy disk, you'll be able to save that file, and I am going to call it flights underscore visualization. Okay, visualization, like that. And of course, load packages here. I mean, remember, guys, the shortcut that I showed you a few weeks ago, Control Shift R. So let me take it out. Control Shift R, and then this icon shows up, and then I just type load packages. Okay, and the great thing about Control Shift R is that the number of dashes that it adds is dynamically generated, so that every time you create a new section with Control Shift R, the dashes are such that the length is the same for everything. I don't know if you remember that. I showed that to you a few weeks ago. Okay, so that's load. We are loading our packages. So let me go ahead and run the code. Okay, to load all 4 packages. And the second thing, as always, we have to load the data, right? So Control Shift R again. Okay, import the data. All right. We can go ahead and copy and paste our code again. Okay. All right, by this time, the flights data set that we are going to import is not going to be the original flights data set. It's going to be the extended one. Okay, the one that we created at the end of last, live stream. The one that we saved in a prepped folder. All right, that's what we're going to import here. So I'm just going to remove this path, okay, but I make sure to leave the quotation marks. All right, tab, and I'm now looking for the prepped folder, and inside the prepped folder I have flights underscore extended.csv. This is the one that I'm going to pick. Okay, also in the planes data set, we one thing that we did is we saved, I don't know, we created planes extended. We added age to the planes dataset, but we did not save it to our disk. We did not write the file to disk. But this is something that we can do right now. Okay, let's just add it to our script and save it to the disk so that we can later on get it back. So for that, I wish we had done it last time, but I remember I did it at the very end, so it wasn't really well structured. But let's do it again because we might need age for what we want to do today. Also, guys, I haven't shared the live code yet, so let me go ahead and do it right now. Okay, so the live code is now in the chat, so please click on it if you want to access my live code. Okay, so now what I'm going to do now, you won't be able to have it in the live code because it's a new, I'm going back to the old script to create that file, just because this is where we did all the data manipulation stuff, so I'm just going back to flight analysis. Also, I did not increase the font size. Okay, I think this should be good for you at this point. All right, so I'm going back to my old script. And for that, since we're doing it with planes, I already loaded my packages, right? So I can do that again. And let me just load the planes data set only, because that's the one in which I am going to add age. And I know that we had some stuff that we added to weather as well. Okay, I'm going to assign it to you as homework so that you guys can do it yourself. But let me just go to the very bottom. Where is it that we? Oh no, we actually did it in the homework. We didn't do it in the flight script. We did it in the homework. That's where we did it, right? Okay, I'm not seeing it, guys. Where is that script again? I can't remember. Where did we use the write underscore CSV function? Was it? Let me see. Joining data homework temp. This is the last thing that we did, right? Okay, you know, it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. Let's just create it here and then save it here. Okay, so import the data. Okay, we just imported everything. All right, so over here, after import the data, so I just went back to the flights visualization script. Control Shift R. Let's call it data manipulation. Okay, or data wrangling if you want. Okay, so let's just add age to the planes data set. Okay, age to the planes data set. So this is the planes data set. Okay, my font size is kind of big, so we won't be able to see too much. Okay, basically the planes, the age of an airplane is simply 2013 minus the year that plane was manufactured. Okay, so let's just add it to it. We're going to add it to it. Let me just call it planes extended. All right, and this is going to be planes. And because we are adding new data, we have to use the mutate function. Okay, that's a function that we use a lot. And we're going to call this new column age, and this is going to be 2013 minus year. Okay, and when I run it, let me just check inside planes extended. All right, so now we have the age of all the planes here in 2013. All right, and now let's write that new data to disk. Okay, and we can use the write underscore CSV function. There is another function called write.csv. That's not the one that we're using. We're using write underscore CSV, which is in a reader package. The same package in which we have read underscore CSV. Okay. All right. So the first argument is the data set that we're trying to save to disk or write to disk, and that's planes extended. And the second argument is the path. Okay. Where do we want to save it? For that, we're going to use the here function, which is in a here package. Okay. We learned it at the very beginning. With the quotation marks, the small trick, as we know, is to press tab. Okay, and press tab and look for the exact place where we want to put it. We want to put it in the prepped folder, okay, which is inside the data directory. Okay, so data prepped, and after that we now give it a name. Okay, the name of the file that we're trying to save. Let's just call it planes underscore extended.csv. All right, just like we created flights underscore extended.csv last time. It's weird that I'm not seeing that code. I can't really remember where we put it, but it's fine. Let's just do it here. Okay, so I'm going to I just executed the code, as you can see here. And let me go ahead and check if it is inside the prep folder. And yes, sure enough, the planes underscore extended data set is there. Okay. Okay, guys, so we're going to do something here. What we're going to do basically is we are going to remove this. Okay, so I mean, I give it a nice title and all that because I'm teaching, right? But let's just remove it, and let's now that we've done it, and this is not really new knowledge for us, so we know how to do things like that already, right? It's not like I'm teaching you something new. But let's just remove this now. Okay, and after removing, let's go ahead and instead of importing planes here, let's just import planes extended now that it has been created. But this is really bad practice though, because whatever you do with your data, there needs to be some traceability. In other words, the code that you've used to do things in your work, you need to be able to find it somewhere, okay? So what I just did is not good. And the best way to do this would be to, in our old flights analysis script, okay, we should really have, all the code for creating our new data there, and then, maybe use it in a flights visualization. Okay, so I'm sorry about that, guys. All right, let me just rerun all this so that all our data is updated. And for the weather data set, as I said, I'm going to assign it to you so that you guys can do it yourself. Okay, guys, we used about what? 20 minutes, for all this. Let's actually start visualization. Okay, so now this new section here, guys, Control-Shift-R is data visualization with the ggplot2 package. Okay, data visualization with the ggplot2 package. Now, if you forgot, I told you that the dashes were dynamically generated, right? So you see, they were generated so that everything is on the same, or the last dash is on the same vertical line as the last dash of the second section title here, and the same as the first as well. So that's pretty neat in my opinion. Okay, so how do we make visualizations? Now, we spent a long time to learn how to manipulate our data set. That was for a good reason. The reason why we did that is simply because whenever you want to visualize data, the data that you want to visualize needs to be in the format that you're looking for. If it is not in the right format, you are not going to be able to visualize it in a very efficient way. Okay, so now we have at least some skills, some solid skills that can allow us to manipulate our data and put it in a shape that we want. Okay, and once it is in that shape, we can go ahead and visualize the data. All right, so let's start with some visualization in the planes data, in the flights data set. I'm sorry. Okay, so what we're going to visualize now is, let's say we want to kind of make a comparison of all flights that departed from all three airports. Okay, so we want to find out the number of flights, okay, that departed from all three airports of origin, and then visualize this. Okay, so this is a comparison. Now, before we can do that, we'll need to do some data manipulation, right? Because we don't have any count here. So we will need to use the knowledge that we acquired to get this data that we want to visualize first. Okay, so let's do it here. Okay, compare departures across all three airports. Okay, and yeah, that's an example. All right, so it's really a count, right? You want to find out all the departures, right? So it's going to be flights. We called it flights, so that's the name that we use. Okay, then basically, since every single row represents a flight, okay, and the column of origin represents the airport of origin. Okay, so the number of times an airport of origin shows up or appears in the data is the number of flights that departed from that airport, basically, right? So we can basically count, origin. Of course, we're going to sort it, even though it's not really needed. Okay, we are going to sort it, and we can give it a name. Let's call it, okay, n_departures. n_departures. All right, and then we get that. So this is the number of domestic flights that departed from Newark in 2013, JFK, and LaGuardia. All right, so this is the data that we want. All right, so let's save it into a variable. Let's call it dep count for departure counts. we're going to save it like that. Okay, so we have that new variable. And this is what we're trying to visualize now. Okay, guys, so how to do this? It's very simple. And actually, in ggplot2, the system for plotting in ggplot2 is to keep adding layers. Okay, actually, GG in ggplot2, GG stands for Grammar of Graphics. Okay, this is something that you may want to know. So I'm going to add it here. Grammar of Graphics. Okay, so that's what the GG there stands for. Okay, so that's a whole ideology, or let's say a whole philosophy behind plotting. Okay, the creator of ggplot2, his name is Hadley Wickham. Okay, even though there are many people that have contributed to it and that are still maintaining it, he is not the person who came up with this philosophy for graphics. It came from someone else. Okay, he even wrote a book about it. You might be interested in it if you are really into data visualization, which is a really interesting field. Actually, it's a whole field of research and study and so many things. Data visualization is big. Okay, so if you're really into it, you may want to get that book. So ggplot2 is just a package that implements that philosophy of visualization. Okay, so the first step, the first step when you want to plot, data is to use the ggplot function. Okay, ggplot2 is the package name, but ggplot is the name of the function. And inside ggplot, you have an argument called data. Okay, and data is simply an argument that takes the data that you're trying to visualize. All right, and what's that data? That's DEP count. All right, that's the data set that contains the data that we want to plot. All right, now the second argument, you see the little the little pop-up that just showed up there. The first is data, the second is mapping. Okay, so it is actually very possible to specify the mapping here. You don't know what it is yet, but I will explain. Or you can specify it somewhere else. So for what we're doing here, let us just add the mapping here. Okay, so the next one is mapping. You can write it if you want. Okay, and whenever you're using a mapping always has to go with the AES function. Okay, AES stands for aesthetic. Actually, guys, before we even do that, sorry, let's remove the mapping and the comma here. We have ggplot data and then departure count. I'm sorry. Let's run it. Okay, let's run this code and let's see what happens. Okay. So for the first time, we're using the plot tab on the lower right corner of the screen. So when we do that, so this is where my picture is, so you won't be able to see it very well. Okay, so I'm going to click on the zoom button here just to, pop it out. Okay, so this is basically what you obtain. Okay, so this is just to tell you that because you use the ggplot function and because you specify the data set, okay, well, the system is ready for plotting, But what do you want me to plot? I don't know yet. So will you please give me more details on what you would like me to plot? Okay, that's basically what the system is telling you by showing you this gray background. All right. Okay, so let's now add the mapping. Mapping equals, and we use the aesthetics. So the aesthetics are just, what do you want to specify, or what do you want to plot on the x-axis? Okay, that's the horizontal axis. Okay, what do you want to plot on the x-axis, and what do you want to plot on the y-axis? That's what the aesthetics are. Okay, and the idea here is mapping. So what variable do you want to map to the x-axis, and what variable do you want to map to the y-axis? Okay, so on the x-axis, I think it makes sense that we have origin. That's the name of the variable inside the data set that you can see here. If you write anything else, it's not going to really work. And in y, we have end departures, like this. So this is what we're trying to plot. Now, step number 2, let's run this code and let's see what happens. Just run it. Aha! So you see something else just happened. The variables that are mapped to the 2 axes, we can now see them. So we know we have EWR, we have JFK, we have LaGuardia, and we have the different values for the end departures. And the good thing too is that these values are kind of scaled to, the kind of values we have. You see, we are in the 100,000s, and we can basically see some hundreds of thousands here. So it does that automatically for you, which is really beautiful. But again, we can't really see a data. So the mapping has worked, the ggplot function has worked, but okay, we want to see something. That's what visualization is, right? Okay. Now, I told you a few minutes ago that the philosophy of this package is to, build data by layers. So the first layer is to create some sort of background, okay? And the second layer was to add the data if you want. Okay, we added the data. That's the second layer. And now the third layer would be to tell the computer in what way we want to represent our data. There are so many visualizations, right? So what visualization do you want to use to present this relationship between the 2 data that you specify? Do you want a line chart? Do you want a bar chart? Do you want a scatter plot? Do you want a violin plot? Do you want a box plot? What do you want? Okay, so here we'll have to add plus, okay, because we're adding a new layer there. Now, you are used to the pipe operator, and that's what we used, right? But ggplot uses plus to add more layers, okay? So what you should tell yourself in your mind, actually the creator of ggplot2, he created ggplot2 a long time ago, and so he has been, he said many times in some interviews that he now regrets using plus. He said that he had wished, to know about the pipe operator when he was designing ggplot2, because he would, be implementing the pipe operator for ggplot2 instead of plus. But I kind of personally like it this way, and I would like to share the reason why I like it this way with you. So guys, look at this, for example. I have like 622 lines of code. Can you imagine that? If any of you has never had any experience coding, or most of you didn't have experience coding in R, can you imagine that? Could you imagine back then that you would be writing code that long in R, just after about a month or so? Well, so after working on long projects, we end up with walls of code like that, walls of code. And personally, I like to be able to know what I'm doing. And of course, these here help a lot, these comments and all that. But looking at these symbols, this kind of tells me, okay, whenever I see a pipe operator, I know that I am doing some data manipulation. But when I see the plus, okay, it allows me to know that, okay, this is not for data manipulation, but I am doing visualization at this point. Okay, so it tells me where I do what, basically. So this is really how you should see it, and I think that would really help you. Okay, so back to what we were saying. How do we want to represent that data? Okay, well, let's do a bar chart. Okay, let's do a bar chart. Now, whenever you want to specify how you want to, Romina is asking for the live code. I think you had to restart, maybe you had to refresh the stream, so you lost it maybe. Okay, but there it is, Romina. Okay, so whenever you want to, what was I saying? Yeah, whenever you want to represent data, you have to use a function that starts with Geom, okay? Geom. Oops. I'm sorry, my pointer was somewhere else. Now, look at all the functions that you have in ggplot2. There are so many ways to represent data. All these are different visualization or types of visualizations. Okay, so whatever you need, you will find it here. And this is actually, I'm sorry, this is actually not an exhaustive list. There are other packages that actually implement more geoms for ggplot2, and this is really awesome, guys. Okay, very, very awesome. All right, now if you want a bar chart, okay, you have Geom bar, okay, which works. Personally, I like to use Geom call like this. Okay, so Geom call is going to make a bar chart. Now let us run our code for the third time and let's see what happens now. Ta-da! Okay, as you can see, a bar chart has indeed been, made for us. Okay, so that's actually pretty neat. This is our very first, visualization in ggplot2. All right, guys, if you're excited about your first visualization in ggplot2, say something in the chat about it, or if it worked for you. Okay, all right. So now the great thing about visualization is this. You see, our mind as human beings for us. It's really, really hard. It's very, very, very hard to process, information when there's a lot of stuff going on, when there's a lot of numbers, a lot of text and things like that. It's really hard for us to process. But our eyes are really helping us whenever something is visualized, So when you're looking at a spreadsheet, it's really hard to understand anything from the spreadsheet. But when you're looking at something like this, it becomes easier. So it's, you don't need a second to realize that EWR has the highest count of departures. Okay, in all domestic flights in the USA, at least in 2013, EWR was number 1, JFK was number 2, LaGuardia was number 3. Okay, it's not really difficult to see it. All right. So also, one thing that you see here is bar charts are great for comparisons. Okay, understanding what type of chart to use in what context is also very important, right? So bar charts, you would want to use them quite often when you're trying to compare values. Okay, that's when you want to use bar charts. Okay, let's do the same thing, but this time around we're not going to use we're not going to map the data inside ggplot. We're going to map it inside Geom call because it's possible. Now, basically, if you want to, if you are mapping inside ggplot2, that means that whatever you do, because we just use Geom code, but the code can be quite long if you want to add more things. Okay, so if you're doing it this way, okay, if you are mapping the data inside ggplot, then whatever you do after that will consider this mapping that you specified inside a ggplot function. Okay, but if you are mapping inside Geom call, then it's only Geom call that is going to accept that mapping. And if you add any other Geom function after that, you will have to specify another mapping there. Okay, we'll look at examples like that. So let's do ggplot data depth count. Okay, now right after that, we can go to Geom call, and this is where we can specify the mapping now. And again, you don't really need to type mapping. You can just start with the AES, the aesthetic function, and it's going to work for you. Okay, and we get exactly the same thing. Okay, we get exactly the same thing. So the mapping could be in the ggplot function, or it could be in the Geom call function. Okay, so that was an example of a visualization. In this case, we use Geom call for a bar chart. Okay, so let's try to visualize something else. All right, so this time around, we are going to visualize. Let's just visualize. But I wanted to do something else with the bar chart, but let's just do something with a different type of chart. Now we want to visualize, let's say, the monthly monthly temperatures. Okay, monthly temperatures over time from January to December, and we know that temperatures are in the weather data set. So let's do it. Okay. Okay, visualize monthly average temperatures. Okay. All right. So of course we'll need to do some manipulation first, some computation. I have the weather data set. Okay, let's take a look at it first. Okay, we have temp somewhere right here. Okay, and because we want it by month, we'll need to group by month first. And after grouping by month, we'll summarize. Let's call it average temp. And this is the mean of temperature. na.rm is true. Okay, when I run it, I now get the monthly temperatures. Okay, the monthly temperatures. All right, actually, there's something interesting that's going to happen in our chart, and I will explain how to deal with it. Okay, so let me call this monthly temp. That's the name of the data set. And now we can visualize it. It's the same. ggplot is the function that you start with every time. Then what data set contains the data you're trying to visualize, that's monthly temp. And this time around, I'm not going to write mapping. It's just going to work. Let me just add the aesthetics here. On the x-axis, I want the time. Okay, that's the month there. And on the y-axis, I want the average temp. So avg temp, that's the name of the column that I created. avg temp, like this. Okay. All right. So now I can add plus, because now I want to tell ggplot how I want the data to be represented. Okay. Now, usually when you want to visualize a change over time, what you want to use is a line chart. Okay. A bar chart is very good for comparing stuff. Okay. A line chart is really good for change over time. Okay. So this is going to be done with Geom line. Okay. Geom line. Okay. So let me just go ahead and run it. And there it is, guys. There it is. Okay. And I think it makes perfect sense, right? It makes sense that at the beginning of the year, January is really cold, so the temperatures are very low. But on average, they keep rising the closer we get to the summer. And in the summer month, the temperature is at its peak. But then as we, enter the fall, in the fall, it's pretty cool. Okay, at least where I live, as you see, the average temperature keeps decreasing until we hit the very cold temperatures again. So that's when we get back into the summer. So this curve here makes sense to our observation of real life. Okay. Of course, we have an issue here. The issue is month. Okay. If you look at the labels there, okay, the problem is when you look at the data, okay, month is a double variable. I mean, we understand it as 1 means January, 2 means February, and so on and so forth. We understand it like that. But R sees it as a continuous numeric variable. So R is just going to, plot it just as a continuous variable. So let's just leave it like that for now, guys. And I'm going to get back to you, I guess, next time when we look at the static mappings, and I will teach you what's happening here. But what you need to understand is, in this case, is the reason why we have these decimals and stuff like that is simply because R is seeing the month variable as a continuous variable, and that's the reason why it's doing what it's doing right now. Okay, so that's really what I wanted to show you here. Okay, and the solution is coming, don't worry. All right, so there are many things that you may want to do with this plot. Like, for example, you see this is the name of the variable, but if you want to make a publication quality plot, you will have to change these things here, right? You can't just leave it like that. You will want to write something nice, and here you will have to write something nice as well, and you may want to add a plot title, and you may want to do a whole lot of things like that. Okay, so let's work on our on our labels, you know, for the entire plot. Now let's go back to the first plot for, you know, and let's start with this. We're going to add another layer to it, okay? And that layer is for all the different labels. So we have the labs, okay, the labs function. And the labs function is exactly for what we just said, okay? It's for adding labels. On the x-axis, okay, you write x, and the labels on the x-axis is going to be written here. Let's say this is going to be, let's write airport of origin. I think this is actually a little too long, but let's just do it like that. Okay, and comma, on the y-axis, let's add number of departures. Okay, then let's run it. You know, when you're making a plot, just, you know, after you do anything, just keep running your code just to see how your plot changed, you know, and this allows you to, it allows yourself, you know, to, you know what you're doing and all that, and you're able to see how things change, you know, with the code that you add. Okay, all right, so you can see that it worked. Now let's add something else. Let's add a title to our plot. Okay, so we can add the title argument there. You know what, let me just break a line because I'm going to run out of space. I need to keep this place a little big because, of course, you know, we need to see our plot. So let's add a title to it. So let's call it flight traffic out of the New York City area. Okay, flight traffic out of the New York City area. Let me run it again, and you see it's up here. Of course, the scaling is off here. Of course, the scaling is off, so don't worry if it's like that. Okay, if you click on the zoom button, it becomes normal. And actually, when you save your plot, you decide the scaling, you know. So that's not a problem. Make sure that it's there, and that's what matters right now. Okay, so you see our plot has become much nicer. Okay, all of a sudden we have different things there, you know, that we want and all that, you know. I'm sorry. Okay, all right, so we have that, and also it's actually very possible to add subtitles as well. So let me break a line here and add the subtitle. Usually the title, which is in a bigger font, is the first thing that you want the person who looks at your visualization to see. Okay, so it's really important that you can, you know, specify, you know, or write something that is that, you know, a very good description of your visualization, basically. And the subtitle is maybe if you want to add a little more information. Okay, so flight traffic out of the New York City area in the year 2013. Okay, so if you had maybe more information, you could add it there. So let me run this again. Okay, so you see now this is showing, okay, in the year 2013. And there's one last thing that is very important when you're making a publication quality plot, and that is the caption. Okay, the caption is usually, you know, if you're using data that you did not collect, you will need to acknowledge the source of the data. All right, and this is usually what you would put in the caption argument. But not only that, there could be other things. You know, there could be other things that you want to your viewer to see. You just put it in caption. So data source, I'm going to break a line here because I think it's going to be a little long. Oh, you break the line after the comma, not before. Okay, so data source. Okay, I mentioned that one day Leonard was asking a question, okay, and I mentioned that I actually took the data out of an R package that is called NYC Flights 13, okay, but they also took the data from another source, right? But you know, let's just write NYC Flights 13 13 R package. Okay, that's where we took it from. But of course, it would be better if maybe you're writing a paper, it's the original source that you need to cite, not the package. Okay, but I'm just showing you how to use the caption argument. So let's do it, and it's going to show up at the bottom right corner of your screen, basically. Okay, so I'm going to zoom now. And you see, this is where it showed up. Data source NYC13. So this is basically how you make a publication quality plot. Okay, you have to add all this information. That's really important. Okay, now one thing that I would also like to add is, as you can see, the default background in ggplot is the gray background with a white grid. Okay, this is not really the best, you know. And actually, it helps to be very minimalistic when you are making a plot, okay? And I mean, if you like it, it's fine. You can keep it like that, okay? Yeah, so Leonard, colors, we're going to talk about colors later. And actually, when it comes to colors, we are really going to try to understand what colors mean because, not that we're going to do a course on colors or something like that. But colors are not to make your plot pretty. This is not why you use colors. You use colors to add more information to your plot. Even though, of course, the byproduct of doing that is that your plot is going to become pretty. But let's talk about that next time. So today we're learning how to make a plot actually. But there's a color argument. There's a color argument that you can add. Okay, let me actually show that to you if you want. So you have the Geom call function here. After the mapping, after the AES function, you can add the color argument. So if you want them to be blue, you can add the blue color there. And okay. So this is actually okay. So there's a difference between color and feel. Okay. So the color is really if you want it's the line, okay, outside the geom that you used, okay? But if you want the inside to be colored, then you use the fill argument. So let's say orange, okay, and it's going to do it for you. But again, if you want to change the colors, that's perfectly fine, but we are actually going to talk about colors in details. Okay, so let's get back to this. There's actually something that I wanted to talk about. Yes, so I was talking about the background, and I was saying that the background is not really the one that that is the best. So I'm going to remove this. Or let me just keep it. Let me just keep it if you want to use it for learning. Okay, so there are various themes in ggplot2, and the themes are really great tools, guys, because with one line of code you can change pretty much anything. Okay. And a theme allows you to change the background and change the overall feel of your plot. Now, many people like to use theme minimal, okay? You see, theme minimal just changed the background of the plot. It's not gray anymore, and you see the axis here, they don't have the black line anymore. So it's really, a minimalistic theme. And it's neat, it's fresh if you want, it's clean, and if you put it in a magazine or in your paper, it's not going to feel like it's like too busy or something like that, right? So that's a pretty good theme. And actually, let me go ahead and remove the colors, guys, because I think it's going to help me out really show you the different themes. Okay, so the first default theme is this, you see. And when you add theme minimal, then it removes it. But there are many themes actually, and there are many themes and there are many packages that add more themes to ggplot2, and these packages are really great, guys. Now, personally, I like the theme BW, and BW stands for black and white. Okay, it's not too different from theme minimal. Okay, but it keeps that that rectangle, if you will, that box, it keeps that box in it. That's really the difference between theme minimal and theme BW. Okay, And I don't know, I just kind of like it when my plot is inside a box. You might not like it, okay? I'm not sure, but that's basically it. Okay, so Leonard is asking, how do we make narrow or increase the space between the bars? Okay, Kinley, I'm going to get back to your question. But okay, since we're talking about Geom call, you see, Geom call has many arguments there. So you see width there, so you can actually specify the width that you want, and that's inside Geom call, right? So right now it is 90%, okay? But if you change the percentage, it's going to change the width of the bars, right? So if you do 80, for example, you see, that's too much. If you do 50, for example, okay, I think 90 would be 0.9, I guess. Yes, okay, so you have to do it in decimal. So 0.5 would be like this, and so on and so forth. So you have the width argument for this. Okay. All right, let's look at a few other themes. You know, when you write theme and underscore, you can see all these other themes there, right? So let's do theme dark. Let's see what theme dark does. Okay, so you see now the background is kind of dark. Okay, you have theme classic. Theme classic is the base plot R. You know, when you make a plot with base R, this is what it looks like. But of course, you can tweak it and you can make it more beautiful. Okay, but you have theme classic. This is what you get, and you have a few others. Now you have a package called GG themes. If you don't have it installed, you can install it. Okay, with install the packages, GG themes, like that. Okay, GG themes. And if you install it, you have to load it if you want to use the themes inside. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take you straight to a website, you know, that kind of shows you the different themes in GG themes. Let me actually go ahead and do this. GG themes. Okay, it has many themes, you know. For those of you who know the Wall Street Journal, okay, this is the theme that they use, and inside the GG theme package, you can just use theme underscore WSJ, and then it will automatically change your plot so that you have the Wall Street Journal. Okay, this guy Tufty is one of the big names in the world of data visualization. I don't know how many of you know of Stata. Stata is a you know, analysis language, and this is the theme of the plots that you make with Stata. So if you're using R and for some reason you want your plot to look like Stata, you can use that. And there are a whole lot of other ones. You see, this is theme Excel, you know, theme View, theme 538. 538 is a very, very popular data journalism website, and it was made by a data analyst. His name is Nate Silver, yes, and he's really well known in the data science world. The Economist magazine, this is the theme, and they have a whole lot. Actually, I saw a package the other day that was implementing a theme Star Wars. You know, so if you're into Star Wars and you want your plot to look like Star Wars, that's it. There was a theme Game of Thrones. You know, so if you're into, you know, Game of Thrones and you want your plot to look like, or to have the color palette of Game of Thrones, then, you know, you can use that theme. It's not in GG themes though. I'm trying to remember where I found it. But yeah, if I find it, I'm just going to post it on in the Slack channel. But you see, you have some themes that are actually very fancy. I want to show you. Okay, so there's this other package too that you may be interested in. It's called GG Theme R. You see, this is the name of the package here, and it implements some other themes, you know, for your plots. So I'm just scrolling down just for you guys to see, you know, some other themes. The really fancy one. I mean, look at this. This is, I mean, if you're interesting, if you find it interesting, you may want to use it. Okay, let me. there's that very fancy one that I found, and I kept it open somewhere so that I could easily get back to it. Yeah, that is it here. Okay, so look at this theme, guys. I think this is kind of interesting. Okay, it's called GG Pomological. Okay, and I guess this is, kind of interesting. This is it right here once again. But look at this theme. I think this is also an interesting theme. There's a theme that I found some time ago too that was kind of interesting. Again, whatever I find, we're going to do a few sessions on visualization anyway. So, guys, you can go ahead and explore yourself. You can just Google it. But yeah, just to tell you that there are many themes, and just with one line of code, you can change the overall feel of your plot. Okay, so I think that that's pretty neat. Okay, so we just talked about the Geom line and Geom call, and we also talked about how to change labels and how to change or how to add a theme to your plot. Okay, and I think let's call it a day. This is just the basics. Okay, introduction. But guys, there's a lot to do. Okay, data visual, and we're not going to do everything, but data visualization is a really, really big field, and there's so much you can do with ggplot2. But yeah, this is just an introduction. What I would. Oh, okay, all right. So yeah, thank you very much, Romina. So she just found the Game of Thrones inspired theme. Okay, thank you so much. You found it for us. Wonderful. Thank you. So hey, you guys can look at the chat. Okay, and I guess the people watching on YouTube later won't have access to the chat, but you may want to look for this GitHub repository, and yeah, this is the package here, Game of Thrones. So you may want to install it, and yeah, so these are the colors that you will see in Game of Thrones, and these are some plots. Okay, this is a map. Okay, so if you're interested, you can use it. Great. Thank you once again, Romina. Oh yeah, and you have an option too with the superstars. Okay, great. All right, guys. So again, this is really some basics, and I said I was going to call it a day, but let me show you how to save your plot. Okay, I'm not going to make that same mistake with write_CSV. Let's learn how to save this already. Okay, so that anything that we're going to do in the future, we will be able to save it right away. Okay. And of course, we haven't added anything here. We focused on this to learn the new stuff. But basically, in order to save a plot, first you need to save it in a variable. Okay, you don't have to. You can use the pipe operator, but that's how I like to do it. Okay, let me just go ahead and save all this into a variable called P. P standing for plot. Okay. Sorry. Okay. The broom here is basically going to clear out everything in your plot pane there. Okay, so the reason why I removed everything was just to show you that P. If I run P, okay, because I saved my plot in it, it's actually going to plot it for me. So just like we were saving data or values and whatnot in variables, you can also save a ggplot inside a variable. Unfortunately, you can't really do it in a base R plot, but in a ggplot, you can actually save a variable like that, which is really, really interesting because you can save it, store it, do whatever you want, and that's really neat. Okay. Also, once it is saved, we can use the ggsave function. Of course, the ggsave function is inside the ggplot2 package, right? The first argument is, as you can see in the little pop-up there, is the file name. Okay, so the file name. Well, if you look at the pop-up, you have file name, then you have plot, then you have device, and then you have path. So in the file name, you are supposed to only specify the name of your file, and in the path, you specify the directory where you want that file to be. So this is a little different from write_CSV where everything is in one. But you can actually put everything in one here as well. Okay. So guys, for the first time, we are going to use this folder that we created over a month ago called Visualizations. Right. That's exciting. It's been sitting there, okay, doing nothing. but you know, we're going to put something in it for the first time. So let's do it. For the file name, we're going to use the here package again, okay? And we will actually specify the entire path there, okay? All right, so let's look for visualizations, and I have way more files than you because I prepare the courses and all that. Okay, visualizations. Okay, and let's give it a name. So this is going to be, this is what, departure count, right? Okay, so let's say origin underscore departure underscore count. Okay, and you also need to let the function know the format, okay, of the file. Okay, it can be a JPEG file, it can be a PNG file. I personally like PNG. Okay, like this. Okay, now what plot are you trying to plot? Now by default, if I run this, it is whatever last plot was plotted that is going to be saved. Okay, so you can do it, or you can just specify also exactly the plot that you want. So plot equals p. I think that's what it's called, right? And I think I showed it to you too some time ago. If you want the help file on the function, you just write question mark and then the name of the function, and then you run it. So yeah, so the first one is the file name and the second one is plot. And you see by default it takes the last plot. But we just say, okay, we want P. Now let's run it. Okay, so it just saved it, guys. You see, saving, and it shows you the dimensions of the data in image. All right, so let's go ahead and look at the visualizations. Okay, and lo and behold, guys, we just created a plot in R. Let me actually go to my computer to see this beauty, right? Visualizations right here, and there it is, guys. There it is. That's my visualization, okay, that I created on my computer, and I'm opening it up. And you see, of course, you will need to make files like that. Of course, if you're sending it to a colleague or someone asks you for something, this is how you can make the plot and send it to them. Okay. So that's neat. That's neat. And that ggsave function has a lot more things that you can do with it. You can specify the height, the width, and this is the DPI. The DPI is if you want how crisp the image is, and 300 is pretty crisp. And the height and the width that you specify here, you need to also tell the computer what units are you using. As this centimeters, inches, or millimeters, you know, this is really important. All right. So again, I'm not going to make that same mistake. Guys, this is how you save your plots. Okay, this is how you save your plots. And oops.